Welcome back to another segment of the MCR. My name is TJ. Mac is in his Magnum PI Hawaiian shirt, but he's not wearing the Detroit hat.
No,
like Magnum PI so often did in his series. Tom Selleck.
But Magnum would wear this hat.
Okay,
if he were on TV today.
I believe so. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're on multiple platforms. YouTube, NewTube, BitChute, Rumble. Oh, lest we forget YouTube. That likes to shadow ban us. Plus, we're on multiple platforms to include Truth Social. So wherever you're watching us on, thanks everyone for your support. In this segment, and I bet you everyone's kind of heard of this by now, it's about the Project Veritas leak of the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide. It wasn't necessarily a memo, but it was like a terrorism guide intended for internal use only. Did you hear about it?
Yeah, I did not.
Okay. This domestic terrorist guide has all sorts of symbols, and they have, I think the term is an acronym, MVE, which means militia violent extremism. Okay. And this guide, basically it goes through a series of symbols that the FBI uses to identify those who might be anti-government, we'll say, or as they put it, violent extremists. These symbols include there's a symbol on their guide. There is a symbol. It's a handgun with the number 2 and the large letter A next to it above the handgun. It's a Second Amendment thing.
Yeah.
And so
if you're pro Second Amendment, you're an extremist terrorist?
Well, that's what the guide would say.
Okay.
Another symbol, and I'm just going to go down the list here. The symbol you have on your hat.
I was wondering.
The symbol you had on your hat. If you walked past an FBI agent wearing that hat, he might suspect you of MVEism.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'll get this tattooed on my ass, and the FBI can kiss it.
The hat I'm wearing, the flag you see behind us, the Gadsden flag, and even though this isn't a Gadsden flag,
it is not.
It's the serpent that you see on the flag here behind us. If you're sporting something like that, you could be guilty of MVE. Okay, the Liberty Tree. If you have some kind of a symbol of the Liberty Tree, they might suspect you of MVE.
Well, we all know that Timothy McVeigh wore a shirt where I think he misquoted Thomas Jefferson, saying that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants and patriots, whichever way it goes.
Well,
and of course, you know, if McVeigh wears it, then we're all like McVeigh.
Oh yeah, and you've kind of accidentally swerved into one of my points I was going to mention a little later here, but oh yeah, if you in any way, you know, I read a news report where a lady had the police knocking on her door because she dared to quote the Declaration of Independence, and it might have involved that very phrase. Okay, you know, if you're familiar with the Declaration of Independence, and I pray to God those watching have at least read it, there is the phrase that it is our duty to throw off oppressive regimes, we'll say.
Right.
You know, and I'm paraphrasing. Also, now that I'm on a roll here, one of my favorite phrases, if you read the Declaration of Independence, there is, they give reasons for the writing of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the reasons stated was, and again I'm going to paraphrase because I'm going to get the thee and thous wrong, but it says, you have sent swarms of officers hither against us to eat out our sustenance. And
in the literal sense.
In the literal sense, that's happening today.
Yeah.
So, slightly off topic, but since I have referenced the Declaration of Independence, I am now guilty of MVEism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm guilty because I'm sitting here with you, even if I disagree, which I don't.
But Betsy Ross flag, which Democrats have had at inauguration events, they've hung the Betsy Ross flag. Well, if you sport the Betsy Ross flag, you are guilty of MVEism.
I have one.
Okay. So
Guilty as charged.
So this FBI terrorism symbols guide has all these symbols that I have just now mentioned. But on page 2, it does something else also. And I seriously doubt you're aware of this, Mac. And I don't know how many of our subscribers watch Mike Glover. Okay. He is the, I'll call him the owner of Fieldcraft Survival.
Okay.
And he also has a YouTube channel, American Contingency and Fieldcraft Survival. He's been banned from Facebook. He's been banned from Twitter.
Shocking.
Just because he's kind of a, what he does is he presents himself as a first responder type survivalist.
Yeah.
And yes, he does deal in weapons, but he deals in more than just weapons. He deals in first aid. He deals in surviving a Holocaust, in surviving an apocalypse. I'm sure the guy's got enough food and water to survive indefinitely, perhaps. But Mike Glover of Fieldcraft Survival was specifically mentioned in this guide, and it has fired him up.
You instantly something came to my mind. Where is the basis of evidence for any of this?
Well, and what's fired him up is while they reference this, they say I think it said something to the effect of, they mention it, but there's a low level of violence. And if you go to his YouTube, he did a video on this just the other day. If you go to his YouTube, because he's fired up. He's fired up. I think he said he was going to bring legal action against him. So
I would if my name were there.
So, but he said, little, he goes, try using the word none. He goes, there is no evidence of violent extremism of his company or his organization.
I asked this person, I had a conversation with a person, and I asked him this question to feel out where they were at. And I said, do you have a problem with proactive strikes on people for crimes they might commit? And they said, no, I don't have a problem with that. And I said, hold on. And we'll create a scenario here. TJ drinks beer, right?
Not anymore.
Well, let's, for the sake of discussion. TJ drinks beer. TJ has a car. TJ could be a drunk driver. Therefore, we need to, today, before he does it, strike down his driver's license and confiscate his car.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we could go with this. Now, it sounds absurd, but it's the mindset.
Yeah.
We need to put this guy Glover in jail because he might incite violence.
Also,
like I said, where's the evidence?
Also, and I forget his name, but the organization, the YouTube channel, Warrior Poet Society, and I forget his name offhand, he was talking about this because he sports a lot of attire with these same symbols shown in the Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide.
And so does my car.
And I got it, now some of the symbols, I had no idea. About half of them I'd never seen before. Something that's kind of surprised me, and maybe you might know why, the Punisher skull. That's the Punisher skull.
I don't know. I've not watched that show. Our colleague Thirsty has watched that show, and he has a few of those things. And
well, I don't know why, but the Punisher skull.
Well, it implies death and death
on the list.
Punishment for those who want to oppress us and keep us in a realm of tyranny. So yeah, I'm good with that too.
So in any event, I don't know how to say this without getting in trouble, but it's getting harder.
Yeah, it is. No question.
It's just getting harder. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say. So much for this rant. I'm going to keep wearing my hats. I'll tell you that. Okay? And with that, we'll close with, as always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.